Congressman Caleb Collier says that this proposal is meant to protect their Second Amendment
I'm
rights.
proposing that the city of Spokane Valley issue a proclamation stating that our city is a Second Amendment sanctuary city.
Welcome to the fire.
Today on Church and State, we'll be covering Christian high school girls basketball team forfeits playoff game against team with a trans student.
And LGBT community finally are making an effort to take up arms against the right.
Plus, you can never trust a potato. Hello, Christian Patriots. And
Potato.
Hey, you say potato and I say potato kind of thing.
He's
Hello.
so ashamed of sweet potatoes, he can't say it.
I hate them. But anyway, hello, Christian Patriots, and welcome to Church and State, where we strive to plug you into the pew and plug you into politics. I'm your host, Caleb Collier. With me, as always, Pastor Gabe Blumgren.
We are ready to do this. All of you who are with us, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Keep them held here for a minute. I want to check our audio right now. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And we apologize for the intro. We are still, as you know, figuring out how to deal with the gremlins, with the tech side of stuff. I am horrible with technology. Gabe, on the other hand, is
I know enough to hurt myself.
Yeah, he's not as bad as me, but he's certainly no Travis.
I'm miles ahead of you. Like I'm talking football fields, but I'm definitely football fields upon football fields behind Travis.
I wouldn't even give you a football field ahead of me, personally.
The thing is a very, very, very expensive camera that we purchased is now being used right now. This is actually a 4K camera. Hopefully it's not zooming in too much of any of our
imperfections,
especially
since you shaved, man.
Yeah, I got no beard.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Although I don't know, maybe the female fans will like it.
Yep. All right. Well,
all right, real quick.
Enough about the females.
Churchandstate.media. Please go to our website. In fact, we are setting up a meeting. I forgot to talk to you about this, but we are setting up a meeting to get that thing restructured, to get it figured out to where we have all of our sponsors. And by the way, please go to the Tuttle Twins and just use the promo code Church and State. Get some of these fine books for your kids, because that is one of our newest sponsors or affiliates, and we are so proud to be partnered with them. But take advantage of all the different resources that we provide. Churchandstate.media. Also, if you want to contact us, Church and State 1776 at proton.me with any questions, concerns, or if you'd like to donate to the ministry here that Gabe and I produce for your pleasure. All right, Gabe.
Hey, I want to talk about Michael. Support him.
Oh,
promo code Church and State. Make sure you that this guy is giving single-handedly probably the most money to outlet media, Christian media, than anybody.
Did you see what he did?
No, tell us about it.
My Pill 2.0. You haven't heard about this?
No, I have no idea.
Brand new pillow. Brand new.
Okay.
How could pillow get any better?
I don't know.
You want to know how?
How?
So they now have the pillowcase that is temperature controlled.
Okay.
So the design makes it to where it's cool for you, Gabe, because I know you got a big head. You're sleeping hot, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely.
You sweating there? Not anymore with the My Pillow 2.0. So take advantage of that, please.
And we're both I don't speak by myself. I'm Hispanic, you're Italian. There's a fair amount of like grease.
Oil, yeah.
So I'll be wondering how this pillowcase reacts to that. So we have to
an experiment.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. We'll do that
also,
for sure.
Let's take a look at really for real. Like in the past, we've definitely heard your fair share of doom and gloom. But if you don't have prepared that is storable and gonna last for a very long time, please take a look right now at Ready Hour Food is who we support. And
My Patriot Supply.
Yeah, the title of it is Ready Hour, but check it out and check it out on our website.
There you go. All right. Let's move on to Gabe. You know I have strong opinions about a lot of things, right?
No, you don't say.
No, really? Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise to you or to the audience. But I also have very strong opinions on vegetables or just foods in general. But in this case, in vegetables.
You hate mushrooms.
I don't just hate mushrooms. I loathe mushrooms. Zucchini, there's one way you're going to get me to eat it, and that's in a bread.
Yeah,
All
which
right,
even
I'll eat
then,
that,
I'm
but
surprised.
I won't eat any mushrooms at all. They're horrible for you. But sweet potatoes are another thing, and I think I've floated this idea before on Church and State, but I have a theory on sweet potatoes, specifically sweet potato fries, and I believe it is a girl food, and here's why. I've been to many a restaurant, gone out to dinner with you and your wife many a time, and when we go out and we order and it comes to the sides, and I always ask, when we read the menu, so we already know what's on the side, right? Don't we typically we read it, we like, okay, this is what the sides are, but women always seem to ask, what are your sides? And when the waiter or waitress says, we got mashed potatoes, we got French fries, we got sweet potato fries, girls' octaves. I've noticed this, Gabe. This is scientific proof. And as you know, in today's society, science is God, right?
Absolutely.
So
it's proven scientifically.
what do women do when it gets to sweet potato fries?
They go up.
They always do this. They go, sweet potato fry? They do it. The octave goes up, man. And so it is a girl food.
It's the same thing when pumpkin spice is back.
Pumpkin spice for sure is a girl food. No self-respecting man orders pumpkin spice. But challenge me. Go ahead.
Well, I definitely know that it is worn. It's welcome now in America. It is associated with every white Becky or basic white girl order. At the barista. So yeah, you have to do something a little bit different.
100%. And so now I have a story, Gabe. I found a story.
You found a story about sweet potato
proves
fries.
You cannot trust a sweet potato. You know what a regular potato does? A regular potato shuts the heck up. That's what happens. Okay, it does. A regular potato is like, I didn't see anything.
I didn't see nothing.
No, but a sweet potato will help solve a 12-year-old murder case.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay, do tell.
Here's the story. All right. So there's an individual who apparently was obsessed with a television show, the one that I'm not familiar with. Maybe you are, Gabe. It's an HBO drama series called The Wire. Did you ever see this?
Nope.
Well, apparently in the show, they had a scene where they used a sweet potato as a silencer. Well, this criminal in question here apparently was a big fan of the show, and so he actually did this while committing a murder.
Potato.
Yes, as a silencer. And so when police got on scene, they found some shells and pieces of a sweet potato. Okay, they were able to take the sweet potato and get fingerprints off of it.
Are you kidding me?
No. All right, and then they arrest this guy 12 years later. All right, so goes to prove my point, Gabe, that you cannot trust a sweet potato.
There's got to be more to this. Like,
well, actually.
Do they have to take the sweet potato back and like put him under the hot light or something? Like, how did that guy squeal? 12 years too. Why did it take 12 years?
You want to find. So here's this. This is obviously the story's real, but this is obviously we've been using this for comedic purposes. But Gabe, listen to this. This is how bad our justice system currently is. All right. So this individual was actually wearing an ankle bracelet with a GPS monitor while he committed the murder. Okay. It proved that he was on the scene at the time of the shooting.
It still took 12 years?
It still took 12 years. He was wearing an ankle bracelet because he's already been involved in a crime and let out of prison. So it's a sad case because the individual that he murdered would still be alive if they had simply kept this individual in prison.
Yeah.
Right. But now, for some reason, it took 12 years and a sweet potato to finally get this guy behind bars.
I'd like to know motive at this point because we found everything. We found the location of the murder. We found with what the gun was allegedly used in the crime when fished out of a nearby lake. This guy didn't even hide it very well. This guy is like the worst action figure bad guy ever.
Yes. And he made the mistake of trusting a sweet potato.
Darwin Awards.
Yeah, he get one.
This is worthy of the Darwin Award.
I definitely agree with that. So, all right, you ready to put that story to rest?
Yes, definitely.
But no, I will say this to the audience. Remember what I said about contacting us, Church and State 1776 at proton.me. Let me know if you agree with me. All right, because I'm not done with my take on foods that men in particular should not consume.
There's a way to eat cheese according to Caleb. You have to eat string cheese like this, which was funny. Is the most non-masculine thing to do. You just take it.
No, man. No.
So dainty. Just pick up the cheese.
I think the audience is on my side about this with string cheese because you eat it like a psychopath.
Yeah, but
that has been put to bed.
We psychopaths just are hungry. There's no time wasting. So, hey, the next story is regarding a Christian school, let us know what you think about this. Like a Christian school, but they are, the caveat is this, they are receiving state funding. So I ask you that, Caleb, is this still considered, this school in Vermont, a Christian school? Because to me, they're forfeiting a game, and here's why. They forfeited a playoff girls basketball game in a state championship tournament after discovering the opposite team, which I'm sure they didn't discover, they knew, had a transgender player on the roster. So they said enough is enough, Caleb. We're not even going to play.
So let me answer your first question.
Do you think they forfeit being able to be called a Christian school?
No, I don't. Now, I would say this, though. I would encourage any Christian school to not take state funding. The whole purpose, the whole intention behind you starting a private school is so that you don't have to teach what is currently going on in our public education system. But when you take that state funding, you've now given them an open door. All right. It's the same as that 501c3, the Johnson Amendment, which allows the state to come in there into the state. I would encourage every church to just dump that.
Right.
And I would encourage every school, private school, to not take state funding.
Towards the end of the story, we're going to get into how this puts you in dangerous hot water, because the main debate, not so much is it okay to cancel out or forfeit or not play a biological male, even though he, quote unquote, identifies as a female. The real question and statement is, you now can be prosecuted if you're receiving this money. So
yeah,
the head of the institution, this Christian school, Vicky Fogg, said it would be unfair and unsafe, for the high school girls to play against a biological male player on the other team.
Let's pause right there, because 100%, this Vicky Fogg is not only a fantastic educator and a principal, or whatever the title is for the head of this institution, but it proves that this woman clearly cares for her students.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because there are, and especially and I wouldn't necessarily give basketball, like, it's not a combat sport, Gabe, but it is. You are going to run into each other. I've seen enough games, and you've definitely coached enough games to know that people can get hurt in basketball. But we've seen, like in MMA, where we had a biological male that identified as a woman that gave a woman a skull fracture.
Yeah.
Right. So where did we get to as society, Gabe? You remember a time where if you saw a man beating up a woman, what would you do?
Absolutely pound him.
Absolutely. You jump all over that guy, right? Because you're going to defend that woman as a weaker vessel, right? You're going to defend it.
And we've been seeing a lot of videos where people just stand there.
They do, right? And so this educator is clearly doing the right thing by saying, we're not going to put our girls in a dangerous situation by competing against a male. You're with me. All right. I mean, I knew you would be, and I'm sure our audience would be. Of course, we do have those naysayers that watch the show that are going to be all over this one. Oh my gosh, did you hear what they said? So yes, this is an appropriate move. And not only that, Gabe, like, I know, and you know, I'm not a sports guy, but I know it's highly competitive, right? And when especially, they're a good team. If they made it all the way to the playoffs, they're a darn good team.
Yeah. And they're looking as if, the article also talks about the reality that as a religious organization, they have the right to no longer recognize certain things, but the idea that they're receiving, like we said, tax funds is putting them in hot water. So do you think it's right for them to say no? Yes, we've established that they don't have to. But here's the caveat. If you're receiving state funds, you're going to have to jump through Caesar's rules. And part of Caesar's rules is you're going to have to play these people, or you could be in legal ramifications. There's a potential lawsuit against the school. And this is not the first time that they have run up against some of these beliefs on marriage and sexuality. So schools, there is a penalty for taking evil mammon or evil money. Don't take it. We've talked about the 501c3 rule. A lot of Christian churches, you need to get out of that game because it silences you. That little tax deduction is not worth your integrity. We all can agree on that.
No, I would agree. And in fact, if you know that little tax deduction, if your congregation, if that's the only reason they're going to their church, because their tithe can then be a tax deduction, your congregation needs to have a talking to. Right. Yeah. You need to go out to the woodshed about that one. All right. But my point, Gabe, on this story was that these individuals are highly competitive. They're highly talented. And yet they put principle over the game. And I love that about this story, right? Because they could have gone in and maybe potentially beat this team, right? And walked away with the trophy. Could have been state champions, right? And every college team or a high school team wants to be that, right? They want to talk about the fact that, hey, back in 2023, we were the state champions. And yet these individuals did the right thing, in my opinion, by saying, no, it's the principle of the issue. It's the principle of the fact that you and our team is not going to play against a male, therefore validating this whole transgender confusion, because that's really what it does, Gabe. It validates the fact that this person can, in fact, be a girl.
Absolutely. The thing that I'm also watching and waiting for is the NBA has never had, to my knowledge, a transgender, person who is identifying as a female, but is a male. Like, I would love to see some really huge dude join the WNBA and just
hold on a second.
Hold
on a second. I'm going to say something incredibly offensive.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
All right. Nobody watches the WNBA. Therefore, no male is going to go join the WNBA when they could potentially be on NBA.
Social experiment to the left. I want to see how they react to this guy built like Charles Barkley, who's wearing lipstick and like completely shaved every region. I don't know.
It's not going to happen.
I would love it.
I'm telling you, man.
When somebody do it, it doesn't go both ways.
How much does a WNBA star make?
It doesn't matter.
But pennies on the dollar compared. No, but
swimming suits to join a girls' swim team, and you don't make any money doing that.
That's the point. There's no money anyway in swimming, right? How much money? Michael Phelps made money swimming. That's it.
This to happen. And of course, the NFL, you're not going to see a girl jump out there. If they did, that'd be great. But just for the sheer entertainment of it. But I would love, there is no girls' football league. Is there a girls' football league?
I don't know. I don't watch sports. You know that.
There actually is a girls' football league, and they dress in really small, skimpy outfits. And it's like, it's not a good. So we got to figure out.
I was today years old, Gabe.
Yes. We got to figure out maybe roller derby. Girls do roller derby. See a guy come in there and
just lay people out. Because that's what it would be.
That's not what I want. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I just want to see the hypocrisy in it.
I mean, yes, you're right. I mean, and there's a reason why you don't see women who have transitioned into men playing men's sports. Right. Because I mean, you just calling a spade a spade. Look, I'm not trying to be offensive here on this part. I was earlier, but not on this part. Women are weaker because God designed them that way. Right. All right. You don't have the same muscle mass. You're not as strong as males typically are. All right.
We've seen a little bit of this happen in the skating community. I don't watch sports, but the skateboarding, there was a huge upset of a girls' basic, extreme games, skateboarding. A guy came in and cleaned house. This girl gave him a run for his money, but when it came down to it, his ability, even though he's a petite guy, it wasn't fair.
Yeah. And I thought that was the whole vision of equality.
Yeah.
Right. And equity, right? That we would be fair, right? Everybody's on the same playing field. I mean, that's the lie of communism, right?
But the game is rigged. You and I have played the card game.
Yeah. It is rigged.
We actually need to play the game.
We need to play. Okay, so he's talking about a game called Wokelandia, which, by the way, we are going to play the game live on air.
I don't know. Which, by the way, right now we're on YouTube.
It may be.
I don't know if you know that. We're streaming to YouTube. That kind of game.
Well, that won't last long.
I don't think we can play Wokelandia on YouTube. We'll get banned.
It may be the most offensive episode that we have ever done on Church
We'll definitely probably have to pull YouTube on that one.
All right, let's talk about the last story.
This is our last story.
But before we get to here, Gabe, I just sent you an image that I want you to put up for our audience. All right, because the LGBTQ community has traditionally had this stand, Gabe, that guns are from the far right, that they're the ones that are going in and shooting up places. And yet when you look at most of the school shootings and mall shootings that happen, typically it's actually leftists that are doing this, all right? Or potentially Muslims. Dude, I'm really going to get us banned on YouTube like right now. But this image is one from a drag queen. And so hopefully our audience can see. Gabe, why don't you read what this drag queen has said?
It says the biggest danger of taking your child to a drag show is that a Christian could show up with a gun. Now, that right there has some partial truth to it. You and I both know that there have been people that show up in the name of Christianity, but I will be the first one to establish that's not Christianity. But that statement is not true. Conversely, for your kid to be there, it is absolutely dangerous. So I'm going to hand the baton to you while I get this picture up.
You know, if the government was smart, what they would do, Gabe, here, if they were going to actually issue permits for people to be able to carry firearms, the first question on there, the first question that they should ask is how they eat their string cheese. It would, there you go. It's over.
Here's the image. Here's the image. Everybody who can online. Oh, come on, come back. Come back.
Gremlins. All right. Anyway, so, but here we have a story coming out of New Hampshire. There's some interesting things because that last story came out of Vermont. So there's some interesting things going on. Yeah, exactly. But it's LGBTQ plus people take up arms as fears of right-wing hate groups grow. It's got a picture of a defend equality with an AR and the rainbow flag. So, of course, what's going on here is there's a group out of New Hampshire that has decided they're going to train up the LGBTQ plus community in the operations of firearms to get comfortable. Now, as a more of the libertarian side of things, perhaps, Gabe, I'm all for people having more firearms, aren't you?
Yeah, every community. When we saw the Asian basically hate going on in the country, what did we see a couple of weeks after that? What do we see, Caleb?
Yeah, they armed up.
They gunned up, and I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, that goes all the way back to the LA riots, man, where what happened? The Asian community was up on the roofs with firearms, and none of their businesses got burned down to the ground. So yeah, absolutely, people should have firearms. But this Rainbow Reload, that's what they're called, out of New Hampshire, they are training this group up. Now, this is a group that, Gabe, here we go. We're going to be back to being offensive again. Honestly, has a lot of mental health issues.
Huge.
Right. So when you really look at the numbers and the data, you can see that the domestic violence is on the rise. The suicides, that homicides rates are highly elevated in such a small minority group of the population. And yet they're training up these people how to use firearms. These are also oftentimes people who have quite the chip on their shoulder, especially the people like you and I.
Yes.
Right. And so we're going to have them all armed up, able to use the firearms, and then we're going to send them out to drag queens, story hour, and shows. And then if somebody shows up, like you and I have done,
do you think they're going to share a trigger restraint?
Yes, because here's the point.
I don't think they're going to show trigger restraint.
Gabe, you and I are always armed
Every day,
every single day.
We go.
And do we take our guns out and wave them wildly? I mean, we've been at protests and things like that where we've had firearms on us.
That's annoying. I can't stand personally when people. Side question: when you are armed and you bring a gun out, to me, that even though you are not using the firearm, that is assertion. You are using power.
Mm-hmm.
You are wielding power. No different than if a sword is out of the scabbard. If a sword is in the scabbard, it's a different story. But if you're wielding a firearm, which I very much think these drag queen story hour people would do I want them to be armed? Yes. Does it scare the crap out of me showing up at an event with them being armed?
Yeah.
Yes.
It has the potential to really blow up.
Major, what we call a gooch titan.
Yes. So, but the reason they're doing it is because they're so worried about these so-called hate crimes against the community, the LGBTQ community. And I'm not going to dismiss that, Gabe. There is certain individuals, you pointed this out, that do target them. All right. But for the vast majority of conservative Christians, we are a peaceful people. And we are not going to specifically target any group for violence. That's traditionally not what we do as Christians. I mean, the Bible is filled with stories, and not even just stories, Gabe. We are charged as believers to pray for our enemies, right?
Yeah.
Not to attack them, not to erase them from the world.
Theoretical
That's not what
question.
we do.
What would you do? Let's say you and me, we're at an event, we're at a rally. We've asked Christians to come peacefully protest, keyword peacefully. We see a quote unquote Christian begin to pull out a firearm. and draw and aim down the sight at a lesbian, homosexual identifying, what are you going to do? Because I know
can
what
tell
I'm
you
going to
exactly
do.
what I'm going to do. I'm going to put myself between those two individuals, and I'm going to defend the homosexual or the LGBT, whatever it is. I'm going to defend them against a violent action.
Yeah, the same way where we've said numerous times, those of you who love Islam, those of you who think Islam is great, they throw people of different sexualities off buildings, and I would be the first person to be up on that building saying, "You are over my dead body. I will defend this person's right because I need them to be able to be a light." And right now, I'm going to put a theory out there. I just watched the movie Jesus Revolution.
Yeah, hold on. Let's. We're almost to the
We
end.
only got a few minutes, but
The next episode, I want to talk about
Let's
Jesus
talk about
Revolution. Okay.
To me, I think the LGBT community has a better chance of finding Jesus than a guy on the stock market or a mom going to Costco who's got all her needs taken care of and every single need is met. God, sometimes, Caleb, just like during the 70s, will reach the broken, which they were by the masses getting baptized because they had immersed themselves in such deep sin. And I'll be real, LGBT community lifestyle, even though they're human beings, what they're engaged in is sin, and it's painful sin. I think they have the chance of being reached potentially more than anybody. That might be putting me in hot water because
No. I just leave it to you to bring up such an important subject right when we have like a minute left of the show, man.
sorry,
Because
man, hand grenade.
you did. You threw a hand grenade in the room, and we got to dissect that. And so our next episode, which we're going to record our second episode here in just a minute, we are going to discuss that, Gabe, because that is such an important point. And just briefly, I guess, just to tease the audience on this, I completely agree with you. It is the most broken individuals that search for God. And so, yes, the homosexual, the LGBT community, they are broken. We know this without a shadow of a doubt. And so I do see that massive potential for Jesus to just get a hold of them and just work miracles in their lives.
We will lock arms with the gay community before we probably lock arms with a rhino.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
let's talk about that later.
You were just throwing so much out here. All right. So real quick, also, remember, check out our websites. Find our podcast wherever you can search for your podcast. We're on there, Church and State 1776, but please continue to support the ministry. All right, Church and State is sponsored in part by the Constitution Party, empowering you to put faith into action. And with that, Church and State